Hey folks, it's Maxwell here and welcome to a brand new TW9 video. You join us today for episode 7 of 21st Century Wrestling, the best of British wrestling here in the Seaverse. Can this finally be the show that we finally don't lose pop? Can we maintain 5 hot storylines? It remains to be seen, but as always, thank you for tuning in and let's get straight on with this week's show. So 14 segments this week. We start off with some action from the Kent racecourse in front of 5,000 fans. Landon Mallory, the South African Superman, took on Daniel Black Francis, who was previously with 21st Century Wrestling. He appeared before the show asking for a one-off deal, and I thought it was a good opportunity to put Landon over and hopefully take some of DBF's overness. So decent matchup. Landon picks up the win in 8:28 with the Springbok Ram. 60-60 and a 53 here, so not too bad, but I still feel we're lacking a little bit in our mid-card. We then have a promo backstage. Day by day, week by week, Hellbound gets one step closer to taking over 21st Century Wrestling. It's about time people start to open their minds to what is in front of them. Blackheart, Gravedigger, future 21st Century Wrestling Tag Team Champions, and Ruin is about to ruin you. Of course, I am Faust, never forget. So just a lot of ramblings here from Jonathan Faust, but it's really designed to really get over Blackheart, Gravedigger and Ruin for their intimidation. 63, I was hoping it would have actually added to the storyline since they're all connected, but apparently it didn't even improve it, so that's probably on me for not targeting rivals in the promo. But Faust looked good, enjoyed going off script, and the segment drew a 63, so that might hamper our 5 hot storylines. Next up, we had a match for the 21st Century Tag Team Championships. It was a decent match here. The Demolishers, Compton Valance and Langton Herring, took on the team of the underdogs, Michael X and Joe Simpson, and it was the Demolishers that won in 12:23 when Compton Valance pinned Michael X with a double chokeslam, giving them their 5th defence of the belts. So here we've got a 60, 60 and a 52, so the segment's tanking, but the matches and the crowd are into it, so that's pretty good. And Cliff King doing some good work at ringside there as the champs retain. We then had a promo from Landon Mallory. He said what you saw tonight was just a fraction of what the South African Superman is all about. Landon Mallory will be watching the UK Championship picture very, very closely, and I will look to strike when the time is right. So he benefited from having a hot catchphrase. Segment was a 52, and for some reason every promo I cut has the wrestler speaking in third person. But hey, it's getting them over, I guess. So that's just to add a bit more depth to our UK title division effectively. Next up, we had a decent reaction from the crowd, but subpar wrestling as War Machine defeated Rhys Pendragon in 11:28 with a superplex. War Machine makes the 4th defence of the 21st Century UK title. So this one was a 51, 52, 57. Rhys is really going for it here, but he's just fallen victim. He's getting all these heavy defeats and big matches, and he was off his game here, and sadly only got a 35 performance, but another defence for War Machine. So we could have Landon Mallory in there. Of course, War Machine does have a future bout with Sebastian Collar to look forward to. We had a little promo hyping up one of our matches later tonight. Of course, you maybe saw beforehand, but we have signed Ernest Youngman on a paper appearance deal just because his stats looked really good, and apparently he's someone a lot of people have signed, so tapping into that. He says, so you may just be wondering who the hell I am. Well, let me tell you. Making waves in the American independent scene, it's time for me to branch out in the world to see how good Ernest Youngman is. I'm going right to the top, and I'm starting out against one of the most decorated men in British wrestling history. Now, Tommy Cornell, you may be a legend in these parts, but when it's all said and done, this is a young man's game. So Youngman debuts his assassin gimmick. He got an adequate rating, and he improvised well throughout the segment. So just the 24, but just really to introduce him to the audience that he's going to be in a pretty high stakes match against Tommy Cornell. Next up in the women's division, we had an abysmal match as Unstoppable Ty defeated Thea Davis in 6:58 with the Ty Bomber. This was a storytelling match. It's really just letting the women get showcased to help build up with overness, because none of them particularly have much. So you're always going to get a tanking with the crowd, but hopefully over time that will change. But 36 performance from Fia, 31 from Unstoppable Ty, and the crowd were a little bit disappointed, but we need to showcase them, and we have to take the hit with that. Next up, ahead of Forest Charmer, I keep putting Charmer, that's Charmer, right? I think it's Charmer. Forest Charmer versus Lee Button. We've got Wade Orson, his entrance before he heads to the commentary booth, because of course we're having that big Iron Man match should Lee Button defeat Forest Charmer, and Wade Orson's here to see how it goes down. The segment was a 0. Okay, so I made it a 2-minute live serious angle as they head to the ring. Alright, so yeah, apparently I got a 0. That's something to learn from for the future. Because normally you'd have had that in as a default angle in the last TW. Try actually make that out, because obviously it was just like walking about. But anyway, the matchup took place. Decent matchup. Lee Button defeated Forest Charmer in 12:23 with the back suplex. 34 for Forest, 81 for Lee Button. And this was a 58, 55, 60. Lee Button looking excellent. The storyline advancing. So my point here was obviously to get Forrest as involved with him as much as possible, try and get some overness. His in-ring stuff's going to take a good bit of time. But there you can see that Lee Button wins that matchup, so we get that championship match in 9 days' time. We then see young Rhys Pendragon being escorted into an ambulance to be taken to a local medical facility, following his crushing defeat to War Machine earlier on. So playing up the whole thing that he's trying, but he's just not having any luck, and he's really putting his body through it. So that's only a 32. I was hoping this would deliver a lot better than it did. But poor matchup. Tommy Cornell defeats Ernest Youngman in 10-10 by submission with a guilt trip, following a botched interference by Edward Cornell. This was going to be our steal the show matchup. So sadly, a 16-43, the guys didn't click, so it showed in their performances, resulting in a 51, 44, 59. I've also realised that none of our lesser storylines have really progressed here either, so we are probably going to lose heat, even with a really strong main event. But we have a promo beforehand. We cut to the backstage area where Cliff King is alongside his client, War Machine, who was victorious earlier tonight. He says, tonight we just saw another example of a silly young child stepping up and thinking they can take on War Machine before getting completely dismantled. This outcome will be exactly the same when Sebastian Collar steps forward. Also, we heard what you said earlier on, Landon Mallory. We respect you, but we don't think the outcome's any different if you step up to the plate. You go to the war, you get ended. So that involves the Calling War storyline between obviously Collar and War Machine. Cliff King improvised well, and a 62 segment. So there's definitely a lot of stuff I can learn from. But it's going to take show after show after show. We could be looking maybe even a month into TW stuff. Well, I think to be honest, you can actually go a good few months in and still be learning things to be the best of booking. But I'll be interested to see when the Real World Mod series starts up, when you actually know all the workers, just how that goes in comparison. But anyway, main event time. About the had great heat and good wrestling. Edward Cornell defeated Adam Matravers in 13:02. With a Black Lightning Bomb. So this was a 74, 82, 76. So the match might help, but we haven't really had a segment to carry us. Matravers with 16-8, Edward Cornell with 79, and Taking Care of Business advanced. This storyline gained a bit of heat. And the main event segment was also a 76. The match is over and Cornell has picked up the win, but he isn't finished there. He slides out the ring and he looks under the apron and he's got a steel chair. He comes back into the ring with a chair, waits for Adam Matravers to get halfway up, and he smacks him across the back with a chair at least 4 times. Finally, some help is on the way in the form of Tommy Cornell, who chases Edward out the ring and up the ramp before he attends to the stricken Matravers. So as they try to take someone out of Tommy Cornell's team, he potentially is, but 76, the Taking Care of Business storyline advances, both guys improvising well. So I'd say this will probably be a 68, maybe less. Let's find out. 67. I felt that was going to be the case, so I just can't seem to get my 5th storyline over. I do feel like the Foss promo maybe would have got it over if there was people the target of it, but that's just my poor booking there. But overall, as I say, it's still getting people over, and I fear we are going to drop down to medium, but hopefully that might be for the best, and that'll give us a real opportunity. As long as we don't hemorrhage money, we haven't been so far. I did fork a lot of money into, we're putting our merchandise up. I think it's training facility, it's the cheaper one, so it's basically making sure we get the best talents we can get, so they should be amazing. Some of the people that come up in March, but there will only be 5 from that intake, so we'll see how that goes, because really all these newbies will be appearing in I can't mind how many days in February when it's not a leap year. 26, that's not 26, 27 I think, so we may actually see them quite soon. But next episode will be the go home show. I need to make sure everything is set up for the pay-per-view, and hopefully we can crack on for there. But that's it for this video. I am absolutely shattered, my eyes are shutting, so I'm going to progress and get ready to book a brand new show tomorrow. But thanks always for your support. Me thumbs up, deeply appreciated. Remember to check out the Fantasy Booker subreddit, Grey Dog Software forums, and twdb.com. But until then, take it easy, goodbye, see you soon.